You'll notice in the quick access section of your modules, as well as down in week number 7, when the assignment is due, that there's a section for population engagement and reflection. This assignment, regardless of which link you click on, this one or the one in week 7, will take you to the same document, and is worth 10 points, which is 10% of your overall grade. Now, during week 2, you'll be selecting a specific vulnerable population that you'll be working with or focusing on throughout the semester, and this assignment is to give you a more personal face to that population. Now, some students choose a population that they're very well versed with, that they possibly it is something that they face in their daily life, whether that's personally through themselves or whether that's through family or friends. If you have chosen a population that you identify with or that you are very, very close to, that's fantastic. I encourage you to reach out and hear others' stories as well, because as we know, no one person's story is reflective of an entire population. So the more people you can engage with in that aspect, the better. Other students choose populations that they are completely unfamiliar with, that they've never met a single person from that population, but it's something that's interesting to them or intrigues them. Regardless, each person needs to make sure that they complete a minimum of 5 engagement hours. And you have all the way until the end of week 7 to do that. And so that's a pretty hefty amount of time to get 5 hours done. That ends up being an hour a week if you spread it out, or you can do it in a different arrangement than that. You can do quite a few hours in 1 week, and so it's just what's appropriate for your interactions and for your population. Now, you need to make sure that these final hour or that these hours are all logged into your time log, but you also need to make sure that there's documentation present. Understanding that some of these end up being some of the engagement hours end up being through anonymous groups, but many anonymous groups will still have on websites or like that a contact person or a facilitator. So put as much information as you can, as is appropriate. If there's something where you cannot put information, please let your professor know the circumstances as to why no contact information can be listed. Now, there are many different ways to get these hours. You can talk to people one-on-one. You can talk to individuals within this population in groups, such as support groups or 12-step meetings. You can speak with professionals who work with these populations. Direct contact is generally where you're going to get the richest understanding of what this population is going through, of different health concerns within this population, different barriers that may be present. But you can also speak with medical professionals, social workers, etc., that work with these populations. If you do attend a 12-step meeting, it's very important that you do not, within that meeting, state that you're a nursing student who's just there to observe. It's okay to let a facilitator know ahead of time when you're asking about whether that's an open group and letting them know you'd like to attend, but it's also just as simple in the meeting just to state your first name and that you're new and that you're not ready to share is acceptable. Often, if students state that they are not part of the group, that can be alienating, and it can also make the individuals a lot more cautious of what they say. For many individuals who attend 12-step meetings, these are vital to recovery, to stability. These are incredibly important activities and a safe place for them to be able to share without judgment and without concern. And so we need to make sure that if we enter these groups, that we are doing so in a way that does not alienate individuals or that does not change that dynamic. If you do choose 12-step meetings, it is recommended to go to a few different meetings, possibly even the same group multiple weeks in a row so you can get to know individuals, and that way you can see highs, lows, what's changed. Often for some of these groups, there's facilities that you can reach out to. So for example, with the refugee population, there's multiple facilities, particularly throughout Salt Lake, that help do work with refugees. So often you need to contact facilities to see if you can gain access to either individuals in the population by doing some time there, or people who work with that population. So as you go through this, make sure when you select a population that's one that you feel that you can engage with. And if there's any issues, please make sure you're communicating on a regular basis with your instructor. So these are not necessarily set up for you to be in the nursing role. This is for you to be an observer, for you to learn more about these individuals on a personal level. So make sure that as you go through, if you're having a hard time finding places to meet, you can go to this resource page. It tells you by county. So regardless of where you're located within the state of Utah, there should be some resources available. So make sure you go in and look at that. If you're having a hard time and you need to contact your professor, you do need to let them know where you have searched and who you have contacted to know where those dead ends are so that they don't run into the same dead ends when trying to help facilitate a possible connection for you. If, after you complete your extra 5 hours of quality engagement time, you end up really enjoying engaging with this population, or it's a population you engage with on a regular basis anyway, it is possible to do an extra 5 hours for 2.5 extra points, and we'll look at that a little later on when we look at the extra engagement assignment. But for this population engagement, you need to make sure you do a minimum of 5 hours by the end of week 7. If there's something coming up that's huge, that would be a great opportunity for you to engage with individuals. If, for example, you have chosen survivors of domestic violence, and it turns out that there's a symposium on domestic violence coming up soon, and it's just barely outside the States, please contact your professor, let them know, and more often than not, we're able to work with you on that. You do need to have a reflection in there as well. So in addition to entering those hours in the time log, you need to go in and answer the following questions. So what was your personal or professional experience with the population prior to the course? What did you do for your engagement hours? You do need to list some specific locations, days, and times in this document. What are the biggest concerns mentioned by individuals in this population? How did this experience solidify or deviate from your preconceived ideas of engaging with this population? What's the biggest thing that you learned about this population through this engagement? What's the biggest thing you learned about yourself through this engagement? And what can you do to better advocate for this population? This right here is a key part of population health, is that advocacy. So I want you to really think through what you can do to better advocate for individuals who may be in a vulnerable position in terms of access to health care.